Hello. Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. You are me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good. Okay, what we discussed yesterday. Anyone? What we discussed yesterday.
Characteristics of business. Characteristics of business.
Yes.
Characteristics of business.
Characteristics of business. Can you tell me what were the characteristics?
Job creator or not job seeker.
Okay. So business is a job creator and not job. Okay.
Seeker.
Next is
Provide momentum to economic
growth.
how it provides momentum.
by contributing to GDP.
GDP.
Okay. What is GDP?
So,
The aggregate of goods and services provided in the country. Okay. Next. What you learned? Only two features.
investment incentive.
What?
Investment
Intensive.
Okay, investment. Okay, intent. So what is meant by this?
To start a business, we need some investment
Funds.
Okay.
in the form of fixed assets or current assets.
Okay, very good. So you need to invest. Business needs investment in current assets and tell me. Now, can anyone revise domains of BCK?
BCK is vast.
It was eclectic and
BCK is
Okay.
eclectic.
It is ever evolving and
knowledge
expanding.
obsolescence.
Very good. Very good. Anyone who can explain what is eclectic?
Deriving ideas
From various fields, various disciplines such as finance,
From
marketing.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Can you tell me how the word bull was derived? What was behind it? And where the word bull is used?
In the stock market.
Stock market.
Yes. And what approach the bull has?
optimistic
prices will increase in near futures.
Very good. He is having optimistic approach. Very good. Now, what is optimistic approach means in stock exchange?
Prices may increase in
Prices may go up.
You should not tell like that. You should tell that he anticipates that the prices of the investment may rise in future.
Yes, sir.
Right? That word anticipation is very important.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right? He anticipates that the prices will go up in future. With that thinking, he sell what he has at present. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
He purchases the investment. Sorry. He purchases the investment with the anticipation that the price of these investment will go up in the future and he can sell them at a profit. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And the opposite
Sir.
attitude of Mr. Bull is bear. Okay. What bear does?
It anticipates that the prices will go down and sell
Go
the
down. So what he does?
sales also.
He anticipates that the prices will go down. Okay. So by anticipating, what he does?
Sells all shares.
Purchase.
Very good. He sells his investment. That means the investment which he is holding at present, he sells them. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, so yesterday I think even we have discussed like a business can be owned as a proprietorship, or even it can be held as a corporate. What is the difference between the two?
Number of persons owning the business.
No, it's not just about number of because in corporate also there is more than one, and in the partnership also there is more than one, and even in LLP there is more than 20 also. So what is the difference between running it as proprietary and running it as a corporate?
It can be shown as a separate legal entity.
Very good. That separate legal entity makes the difference, because in proprietary the owner and business are considered to be the same, and even the liability also matters. But in the corporate, ownership and management are distinguished. Okay, so that is the unique feature. So that point should always come to mind when you decide what kind of business you like to run, whether it is proprietorship or corporate.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so today, now we will be discussing what are the options available. So under proprietorship, what are the options? And the next is corporate. We will be discussing all the types of organization which you have already discussed in your PUC, but still we will be revising them because you know most of the things about them. So I will not be spending more time on that. So first, coming to the first type of organization which is very famous, that is sole proprietorship. Sole proprietorship. What is meant by sole?
Single.
Single. Hope you have heard the word solo. Solo is
Yes, sir.
solo singing. The one which is, that means there will be only one participant, so will be singing. That is solo. So it basically the word sole means single, right? So when there is only single proprietor, we call that business as a sole proprietorship. I will read out few things which is mentioned in your module, which have been shortened here. It is the easiest and earliest form of the business. We know that the business word started with sole proprietorship only.
Yes, sir.
In sole proprietorship, the individual essentially relies on personal savings and assets. Example, room of the house, home furniture, personal bicycle or vehicle to comprise the initial capital of the business. Now, if you, it is very easy to understand. That means when the sole proprietorship business is started, most of the personal assets are invested as capital. For example, today if I open a shop, I will be using my Activa to commute between my home and shop, and I will be using my vehicle to bring raw materials or bring stock from the wholesalers. So he's saying that he will be mainly reliant on his personal belongings and savings to finance the business. Next is,
Yes, sir.
however, in a modern economy where the financial system is fairly developed, it is often possible to obtain microfinance, that is loans in small denomination, say 1,000 or 2, okay, and bank finance. That means now earlier they were mainly reliant on personal savings and all, but nowadays even government is providing loans to sole proprietors also. Earlier we were also providing, but nowadays the volume has increased, right? There is a department from government called MSME and the medium small scale sub jo hota hai na, they are providing loans, even that they can also be utilized as a source of finance. Next is, all the profits of the enterprises accrue to the sole proprietor, and so do the risk of business. That means as he enjoys all the profits of the business, and even he need to bear the risk entirely. Next is, on the flip side, products from such enterprises are often derogatorily called local to distinguish from branded. In common perception, working conditions in these enterprises are poor. These enterprises are believed to follow hire and fire policy, lack of employee welfare measures, and lack system to efficiently deal with social and environmental concerns. Fate of these enterprises is linked with the personal well-being of the owner. So this single paragraph has a lot of things to discuss. Okay, let me start with, right? So first, the products of these enterprises are called as local. Question arises, what is meant by this? Now, if I ask you, right, anyone who can name few companies or few brands of paints जो हम पेंट यूज करते हैं घर को लगाने के लिए, Asian paint, you remember? Okay, then anyone else?
Nerolac.
Okay,
Nerolac.
and then next
Indigo.
Rolac.
Indigo.
Okay, now I will ask you, do you remember any paint called Raju paint ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಕೇಳಿರೇನು?
No, sir.
No, but Raju paint is one which is manufactured in Yadgiri district. There are few vendors who sell Raju paints.
No, sir.
It is owned by some Patil, I know, right? But are you aware of it?
No, sir.
If somebody is using it also, what do you say when you visit to him? Arey, use some standard paint, yeah, these will not be good. The reason is, and you call them as, these all are local made, you say, right? Because these are the enterprises which are very small in size. They cannot have good technology. They will not appoint skilled labor because their investment is very less. Okay, because of that, the kind of product they will be using, they will be producing, will not be of a high quality. That's why they are referred as local products. Okay, that means their quality will not be too very good. Then here the working condition will also be very poor, because you can see a working condition of a iron shop or a Kirana general store, when it compared to any companies like TCS and all, they will be very poor, because again the investment and size always matters. And here there will be no long-term employment contract like you will be serving for 30 years, 40 years. You can see this with many hotels. Whenever you go to small hotels, you see that the waiters and the suppliers will be changing often. The reason is they won't believe in employee welfare or maintaining a long-term relation with them. They always adopt hire and fire policy. That means if somebody demands more wages or better working condition, they will be fired off and one more person will be hired. Next is, these enterprises, then lack of employee employee welfare measures, I have already mentioned it, and lack systems to effectively deal with social environmental concerns. They are not at all bothered. They use such method which harms the environment, then utilization of space, these all things, and discharging of waste. These are the entities which do not take proper measures to deal with social and environmental issues. And even if you see, there will be many child laborers working in sole proprietorship organizations. Even that is against the social concern, or that harms the social concern. Next is, fate of these enterprises is linked with the personal well-being of the owner, because there is no perpetual succession. If you remember, in the corporate entity, there was a perpetual succession. which said that owner may come, owner may go. Sorry, members may come, members may go, but the company will run forever. But in sole proprietorship, such thing will not be there. If owner is there, then enterprise will be there. Once the owner dies or he is deceased, at that time, the life of the enterprises also comes to an end. Okay. So now, let us look at the few features of sole proprietorship, and with that we also discuss whether that feature is a merit or demerit. Okay. So now, one of the feature of sole proprietorship business is autonomy of being one's own boss. That means there will be no one who will be bothering you to take any decision. You often see when you sit together, when you all friends sit together and start making a plan, it is very difficult to take decision because everyone comes with their own idea. Finalizing becomes very difficult. But in sole proprietorship, you are one's own boss. So because of that, you have a merit. Because of freedom from the restrictions of paid employment, ample scope for experimentation and expression of one's creativity and innovativeness. What is meant by this? As you are the only boss, okay, you have liberty to take decisions. There is no one is there to bind you, as it happens in the case of employment. You are bound by your employer. Okay, and you can express your ideas. You can experiment with them because you are the owner and you are the only one who decides. Then sole provider of capital. This becomes a limitation. The feature of sole proprietorship is the only one who contributes capital, and this is a limitation also because this limits the size of the business. Yes, banks and lenders may provide additional resources. However, borrowing capacity is too determined by the capital adequacy. This feature also limits the capacity to grow. Now, can somebody tell me how the borrowing capacity is determined by capital adequacy? Anyone? You are able to hear me?
The amount of assets you have to pledge.
Yes, sir.
What?
The amount of assets we have which can be pledged.
Not necessarily. I'm not able to clearly get you what you are saying. It's unclear how it is determined.
Sir, since our capital is very low, the borrower may hesitate to lend us money.
Yes. Do you remember debt equity ratio?
Yes, sir. Yes.
We studied debt equity ratio in our PUC second year ratio analysis chapter.
Yes, sir.
Right? So it is linked to this part, that is borrowing capacity and capital adequacy. See, what happens when a lender lends you money, he looked at how much money you have brought. For example, you have brought 50 lakhs rupees and which are already there in your business, and you are demanding 25 lakh rupees from the lender. What he thinks is his investment is 50 lakh and he is borrowing from me how much? 25 lakh. Even the business does not run successfully, at least out of the 50 lakhs he has brought, he can pay me 25 lakh rupees. Okay. And what Vinay said is absolutely right. I'm giving it straight, but again, what 50 lakhs what we have brought, they will be invested in assets. Okay. So once you lend him 25 lakhs And if the business does not run successfully, at least you can sell that 50 lakhs rupees asset and you can repay 25 lakhs. So even the money lender, while lending, just checks how much is your own capital and how much is the borrowed capital in your business. Okay. So that by looking at your owned capital only, he decides how much he should borrow. Sorry, how much he should lend you. Sorry.
Yes.
You are able to understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Next is visibility of the owner and personalized services. That means the person will be operating the business. He will be all day available for his employees. Merit. For example, the personal support with the customers and customers engenders trust and loyalty. Now, what happens when owner himself is in the business? The customer will, it's very easy to win the trust of your customers and suppliers. So that is the one of the benefit which is there by being visible in the organization. Next is sole bearer of risk. That is the limitation. We have already learned about it. That is, this arises from being the sole provider of capital. If all the profits belong to him or her, even the losses also belong to them. Next. Unlimited liability. It is a common limitations of proprietary forms of business organizations. Even the same is in partnership also. In the event of insolvency, that is, liabilities greater than the assets, the owner's personal assets are invoked to make up the deficit. That means, कभी भी जब personal जो business assets are not sufficient to pay off business liabilities, then the personal assets will be used to pay off the liabilities. The next is fate as going concern. Fate as going concern. That is, going concern is equal to enduring the life of business in the foreseeable future. Now, yeah, इतना मत समझिए, मैं simple में बता देता हूँ. It is a limitation. Sole proprietary entities going concern status depends on the owner's personal health and life. This I have already explained. And after his death, upon the willingness and the ability of the heirs or successor of the family. That means till his life, the business will be there. But whether after his death, whether it will continue or not, it depends on the age of his successor and the ability of his successors. If they are not able, then the business comes to an end. The next is succession of ownership. Remember, by will or application of the law of inheritance, a will or treatment is a legal document by which a person, the testator, expresses their wishes as to how their property is to be distributed at death, and names of one or more persons, the executor, to manage the estate until its final distribution. If the will is non-existent, that is, for intestate succession, the applicable law of inheritance will come into force. For example, for the Hindus, Parsis, Buddhists, Jain, and Sikhs, the Hindu Succession Act 1956 is applicable. That means, in the proprietorship, sole proprietorship, what happens? Once the owner dies, you need to check whether there is a will. Right? What is the will? The will contains the detail to whom the property should be transferred. Okay. If that is not available, then in case of Hindus, remember the Succession Act, that means the Property Succession Act, which is applicable for Hindus, will be used, will be taken for consideration for distribution of the property, right? And this Hindu Property Succession Act is applicable to the religions. That is, one is Hindu, the next is Parsi, Buddhist, Jain, and Sikhs. Okay, so this was regarding sole proprietorship. Okay, so if you have any doubt, you can ask. I will unmute you all so that you can ask doubts. Yes, any doubt you can, any doubt you have?
No, sir.
No,
If you
sir.
don't have doubt, then you can mute your mic.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Ask doubts if you have. No doubt?
No, sir.
Any word which you have not understood? Remember, here the word testament is used. Do you know what is meant by testament? T-E-S-T-A-M-E-N-T.
Will, sir, will.
The will is referred as testament. Okay. Next, can we go to Hindu undivided family?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, anyone who remember the meaning of Hindu undivided family?
If the owner dies,
Perfect.
his family member can
What? Anyone?
business which is carried by family members.
Very good. See, HUF is an entity formed automatically by members of the common ancestry, including their wives and daughters. Okay. HUF cannot be formed by a group of people who do not constitute a family. For example, we all cannot form HUF because we all belong to different families. Okay. The necessary is they all belong to the same family. As such, a joint Hindu family in India is in fact, just a minute. HUF as such, a joint Hindu family in India is in fact and by default a HUF. That means any joint Hindu family can be considered here as Hindu undivided family. Next is, HUF enjoys a separate entity status under the Income Tax Act. Okay, that's why when you start accounting for when you start calculating income tax, when you go to the further education of IPCC and all, you understand that there is a separate chapter which deals with assessment of Hindu undivided family. Okay, it has separate status. The Income Tax Act considers HUF as a separate entity if the joint family wishes to register itself as such for reporting income under the following heads: profit from business or profession, income from house property, capital gains, income from other source. Since under Income Tax Act, HUF is a separate entity from the joint family that comprises it. A HUF cannot earn income from salary. You should remember this point, right? If you are assessing HUF under the head business or profession, then you cannot assess it under the head salary, because a business will never go to anyone to earn salary. So if you are registering it under PGBP, that is profits and gains from business or profession, then you cannot assess it under the head salary. Next. Or you cannot, or you can understand that a business cannot earn, or HUF business cannot earn income from salary. Next. 3 successive generation of an individual, of an undivided family are known as HUF. That means there should be how many generations? 3 generations in order to constitute a HUF. The definition of HUF includes Buddhist, Jain, Parsi, Sikh families as well. That means it is not just Hindu, it also includes Buddhist, Jain, Parsi and Sikh. Next. For the purpose of understanding HUF's feature as a business entity, another important relevant law is the Hindu Succession Act 1956. That means if you want to understand the HUF features well, then you need to understand one other important law, that is Hindu Succession Act 1956. Then, next, let us understand the features. Formed by birth in a Hindu, Buddhist, Jain, Parsi and Sikh family. The merit of this is family members may naturally join each other in business. In contrast, in a Muslim family, if the sibling wish to associate in a business, they will have to do it contractually. Example, partnership agreement. That means what you need to understand here is, in a Muslim family, for example, there are 2 brothers who are running business. If another brother wants to join the business, then he has to make a partnership agreement. Okay. But whereas in joint Hindu family or Hindu undivided family, members will be automatically given the status by their birth. That means membership status will be given to them once they take birth in the family. Next is family pool of resources. Merit. It is possible to start, expand a large business. Moreover, the common pool of capital may be utilized to diversify business in sync with the aspirations of the members of the successive generation of the family. That means what they are saying is entire family pools capital. Because of that, you can start a large business, or you may start with the very small business, and you can go on expanding as the generations get added to it. Okay. The next is social capital through family involvement. Okay. There is an instant trust among the family members as compared to with the situation of partnership with strangers. Family members toil hard to build the family business. Moreover, they may specialize in different business functions for greater complementary of the mutual skills. Right? Now, what happens is, what is the social capital? See, what happens is, when you make partnership with strangers, there might be a problem of understanding, right? Your thinking may not match, or one may be working well or another may not be. But here, you all belong to the same family. The understanding will be very good within you. And you all will be striving hard to uplift the standard of your family. So that itself add as an additional capital. We are calling it as social capital. Next is last one. The other features I will explain tomorrow. The family members are the automatic co-owners called co-partners by birth. It has a limitation. That is, ownership in the family business is an ascribed rather than earned status. It can actually be quite frustrating for the outsiders. Example, hired managers who help to build the business. So this one particular feature may harm the interest of the employees. How? I will tell you. there is a manager in our business who is working hard to lift the standards of the business. But what happens is a child by birth become co-partner. Co-partner means co-owner of the business. At that time, it will be hurting to him. It will hurt him because the reason is I working for long since he's working for long he's working since long time, but he is unable to get the status of owner, and a child simply by birth is becoming co-owner of the business. So it may be it may act as lack of incentive to the employees, and it may harm the working environment. So this feature has a negative impact. Okay, so tomorrow we will see the two more features which are left out, and three features which are left out, and then we will be discussing about partnership tomorrow, and hopefully even I will be trying to complete the limited liability partnership also. Okay, so with this we finish. If you would like to ask any doubt, you can. And you already know the fact that the head of the Hindu Undivided family is known as Karta, and the other members are known as co-partners.
Yes.
Then, you like to ask anything?
No, sir.
These are the things which have been already taught to you in PUC. So, from next chapters, there will be a little difference, because you will be learning the things which you have never been learned in the previous classes.
Yes, sir.
So, shall I end the meeting?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And I request you, yesterday I sent YouTube link, whether you have seen it.
Yes, sir.
I request you to send to all your friends and ask
sir.
them to subscribe. The reason is there are few issues with Zoom, that government is not asking to use Zoom app and all. So I want to start my live classes in YouTube. Okay, and YouTube is a safe platform for live classes. So the condition to that is, in order to go live in YouTube, you need to have at least 1,000 subscriptions, but I already have around 600 subscriptions.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Right?
can't
I'm
we
in
go
need
with
of
Skype,
another
sir?
400. Yes.
Sir, Skype.
Skype, I think, I don't know how many users will be allowed to attend. We are totally at present 20.
Sir,
Sir.
we can use Microsoft Teams and Google Classroom also.
Google Classroom, it is not possible to go live in Google Classroom. And one more limitation is they are again using Handout, which is not that good.
Sir, Microsoft Teams.
Microsoft Team, I will check with Microsoft Team how it works. Then let's see what happens. Okay, but
Yes, sir.
but YouTube, I found it very easy to use, because I used to conduct my classes at state level, this revision classes and other classes live through YouTube. It was very successful. There were no interruptions. So if that is possible, then I will be very happy, because I have already done done with that.
Yes, sir.
Right, so you try to request your friends to like our own college students also you can send, right?
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
even I request the students of Zindal College also to do the same, so that I don't want to interrupt these classes, because today few students were asking whether we should uninstall Zoom app. There were many questions, but later on I clarified them that there is not, it is not such a big issue that we should stop taking classes at this moment. Let's wait for other guidelines from the central government, then we take the decision. So till that time, if that YouTube is possible, YouTube likes get 1,000 and it is possible to take classes on YouTube, then it will be very good.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
Yes, sir.
bye, and
Okay,
tomorrow
sir.
we meet with the remaining part of HUF.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.